Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, what do you do when Smackdown sucks? You bring in the best to make it better. Ladies and gentlemen, it is your boy John Enright here in a snowy Texas, which is weird to say, but to help bring in a better year and a better day and to remove some of the snow, I bring in the vet. Ladies and gentlemen, the vet is here with us today. Sir, welcome to see you. Glad to see you here.
Hello.
I know you don't have to deal with snow. That's not a thing you have to deal with.
Extremely rare. Extremely rare. It's like I've seen more unicorns than snowflakes in my life in California, but it does happen. It does happen. So,
what's the worst snowstorm you've ever been in?
the worst snowstorm I ever been in was in, I want to say it was 2008, and there was like maybe like a foot and a half of snow, and the townhouses that I lived in, like they lost power,
Oh man.
so I couldn't go anywhere. I couldn't do anything. So I was just kind of snowed in, and like I was trying to survive off the food that I had, not knowing and like wrapping in a blanket and stuff like that. It's pretty ugly. And then I had to go to work, and like I had to take a bus to work, and like I was like walking, like trying to get through the snow, and like my pants were wet up to my knees before I got halfway to the bus stop, and I was like, you know what? I think I'll just turn right back around. Called in for inclement weather. Yeah, that was the worst I ever did. But that's when I was living in Louisville, you know.
Yeah, and they get more snow up there than
Yeah. Still not a tremendous amount,
Yeah.
but enough.
Yeah.
But,
I think the worst one was I was in Durango, Colorado. We were leaving Durango to make our way to the airport, and overnight they got a foot and a half of snow. Overnight, so we're driving down the mountain to go to the airport, and on our way they cancel our flight. And we're like, 30 minutes from the airport, so we've got to figure out how to get out. And of course, there are no other flights. Other flights are leaving, but they decided to cancel that American Airlines flight that we're on, and so we have to figure that out. So then we're looking at the weather, and of course, we're at Durango. You have a choice. You can go 3 hours north to Denver, or you can go 3 hours south to Albuquerque. And so we decided, because the winter storm was heading in the north direction towards Denver, we would go south towards Albuquerque because the storm wasn't heading that direction. So, but we had to traverse through back roads. It's not like a straight, like you take I-35 or one or 25 or whatever to get there. You got to traverse these mountain back roads that already have a foot and a half of snow, and nobody's touched them. So, me and my brother-in-law are taking turns driving this rental car that we had to bum from the airport to go to Albuquerque. And so, yeah, we end up making it to Albuquerque. And then everybody in my family ditches me from the flight that we were originally scheduled on to get on earlier flights. And my sisters were the ones who brought me to the airport to begin with, in Texas. So I'm like, how am I going to get to my car? I'm at y'all's house. Oh, well, you can get an Uber. I'm like, I don't pay for Uber. I don't have Uber. I don't. So yeah, it was a whole thing. But yeah, it was for the first like 2 hours, we were literally just driving back roads, mountain roads with like no clearance whatsoever, just making it. It was bad. So
very, very scary.
Yeah.
Important question though.
Okay.
When you got to Albuquerque, did you make a wrong turn?
I did not. My sister
Okay.
did. I did
Okay.
not.
So
I made the
so
wrong
she
turn.
fell victim to the Bugs Bunny.
Yes.
Okay.
The Albuquerque, that way. That's one of my kids' favorite things. He likes to do that. And I'm like, all right, kid, like which way you want to go? Albuquerque, and he'll do that.
Nice.
Yeah. So, so I want to shout out to Elizabeth. First quote of the day, Elizabeth, you made it. Lab Rat, good morning. Aaron Ben Shalomo, good evening or good morning, good night, whatever time zone we keep you guys in. I gotta be honest with you, man. This was last night was so bad.
I was so excited to be able to, come on and talk about the hottest wrestling program on Friday nights, but then Dr. Jargo didn't send me an invitation to Rampage Uncaged, and
Exactly.
so So that I had to come on here with you. But that's fine because you're one of my favorite people, in HMG. So I'm always, no matter how bad the show is, we're gonna have a good show.
We are.
Because you're, like I said, you're my favorite. You're tied. You're tied for my favorite person in Hameen Media Group, tied with anyone else who's listening right now. So just.
I appreciate that.
Thought I'd throw that out there, but yeah, I mean, and that's okay too because, for what I understand, Rampage was a hookless disaster, so there was really no point in even watching it. No hook, no watch. So yeah. It's fine.
I'm gonna be honest. I've seen Rampage a few times. I've seen Hook. I don't get the fanfare behind Hook. I've watched. I've watched a couple of times. I don't like. I don't know. I'm sorry. Like watching him against like the Bear Country guy, like I'm going, he's just throwing this guy like really.
That's the art of judo. You can really do that,
I don't know. It's like I don't know. Like I like the presentation of him, the walkout, the the MMA style look. It's different. It's cool, but like it's the in-ring stuff that I'm struggling to see and connect with on a level of okay.
Well, here's the thing that it's funny that you say that because look, you've seen good wrestling, you've seen bad wrestling, but I do find it funny that a lot of times the argument, and I'm not including you in this argument, I'm just saying in general because you and I being on the being involved with wrestling in whatever capacity we are, we see a ton of different stuff, whether it's from fans on social media or whatever, or news reports or all these things. Like we're constantly getting feedback from places, right? And a lot of times you see this narrative where it's like, nobody cares about the wrestling. The only thing that's important is stories and characters. That draws money. You see like fans sort of like echo that sentiment. But whenever they don't like something, then they turn to the work, which is like, I'm sorry, you defended Hulk Hogan, the shittiest wrestler of all time or whatever, because he made all this money and you loved him as a kid because you're a fucking mark. But then you want to talk about, this female's not, Jade Cargill's not up to snuff, even though she's had like less than 30 matches or I don't get it with Hook or whatever. He's just everybody, it's like we only turn to the work when we don't want to acknowledge something or whatever, but the rest of the time it gets pushed aside. So we have to be fair in our assessment. Now, the thing about Hook is exactly what you said, the presentation. Not that there's anything wrong with what he does in the ring, but it's the mystique. That's the difference of, especially when you turn on to wrap this into and make it relevant to the Smackdown episode.
Sure.
I didn't count the amount of recaps that were on this fucking show.
Oh my God.
But it was almost 10. At least 10. So almost like a dozen times when they just had to remind you, spoon feed you, basically say you're too dumb to get this on your own. You need it drilled into your head, right?
Right.
So what we get with Hook is he's just Taz's kid standing around for like 9 months. Not doing jack shit.
Right.
And it's like, why is he even here? He doesn't talk. He barely moves. He doesn't get involved physically in any of the angles. He just runs down there and stands around some more. So like, that's all we get. And then the first time that he comes out, we're all like, okay, what's going to happen? And what happens? A bunch of cool stuff, like the music, his stupid look. Part of it's like you want to not like him because he looks like a punk kid douchebag.
Yeah.
That you think you can throw him around, even though you probably can't.
Right.
But you think you can. That's heat. But it's the mystique of him not saying anything, them not telling you anything. Taz is sitting there, saying like, "Oh, watch this." He's not saying, "I taught," blah blah blah. He's not exposing. He's not running an expose. So it's like. A lot of Hook is left to your imagination, but what you're seeing is kind of cool, but it's also not cool because he's a punk kid. Right. So he's got the heat that he's supposed to have. If they don't fuck this up, this could be really good. My fear is that they will do something too soon to fuck it up. But the mystique is the key. The mystique is why people like it, even if they don't know that's why. They may come up with some reason like, I think he's cute, I think his hair's funny, I like his suplexes, whatever you think you like about him. The mystique is the number one reason why people are gravitating toward that. And the reason is because, like I said, in the majority of other wrestling, we're not getting the mystique. We get shit beat into our head until we're tired of hearing it. You know, so I think that is that's just my opinion.
Well, how long do you keep that mystique going with him then? Like, you know, at what point do you go, okay, we need him on the mic now, or we need him? At what point do you kind of break that? You know, in your opinion, what would that be?
There's no like, obviously there's no like, oh, well, it has to be exactly 16 months, you know. But you can do this indefinitely, like where he comes out, destroys somebody, and then that's it, and just walks back. Like, you can do this for a year if you want, and they don't even have him on every week, you know. So it's like that adds to not only the mystique, but it adds to the like, how can I miss you if you won't go away type thing. There's some people we're sick of seeing, and we'll talk about that later in this episode again. all this conversation that we're having is relative to SmackDown, you know, whether we meant it to be or not, but it is. What I would do, this is what I would do. I don't care if they steal it. I want them to steal it. So I'm giving them the free thing. But the first real program that Hook has is, it has to be, whenever it's time, it has to be Darby Allin, and he has to fucking destroy Darby Allin, just like any of these jobbers that he's beat.
Right.
It's got to be something like that, where nobody sees it, like nobody expects it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That has to be the first thing. And the reason why is because the first time we ever saw Taz, he was trying to tell Darby Allin, like, hey kid, I've got some advice on what you could do. You know, before Taz was a heel, he just worked there, and he was like, you know, he tried to give Darby Allin some advice in a babyface way, and Darby Allin just shrugged him off. So it has to be him, because it's like, oh, okay, kid, you don't want to listen to me? Well, I'm going to have my son fuck you up then.
Right.
That has to be the thing. And then he has to get destroyed. And then if at some point, you know, you want to get Darby to come back and do the, you know, Rocky IV training montage and come back and beat Hook, or lose to Hook in a much more competitive match, whatever you want to do. But that has to be the first thing. It absolutely has to be. Anything less than that, you've ruined it. So there it is, guys. Okay. You can clip that and send it to Tony. I hear that he says he doesn't take advice, but judging by his booking, he clearly takes advice.
Yeah. I mean, that's an interesting one, because I think Darby makes a lot of sense, especially like you said with the tie with Taz. I know that he's kind of making a play towards that TNT Championship. So if, let's say, he wins the TNT Championship, then would that make sense for Hook to come out there and then just beat the shit out of him, and then go for that TNT belt at the same time that Darby has had it? And, you know, I don't know, like, do we put a belt like that on Hook as part of that with this event, or does it not need a belt?
You don't need to, because the first thing that you start having to worry about when you give a guy a belt is, all right, who's taking it off him?
Yeah.
And Hook may have a ceiling. Like, you don't see Hook as, oh yeah, I'm in the Hangman Page spot, I'm in the Kenny Omega spot, I'm in the John Moxley. You don't see him there. Right. Maybe one day he can be, but it will have to be like a gimmick reinvention almost to a certain level before he can do that. At this current gimmick, which is hot right now, and it's cool, to maintain that level of gimmick, you don't want him near titles, really. Or you have to find ways to, you know, explain why he wouldn't want a title. Like Taz can say some reason why he, you know, doesn't need that right now.
Right.
It could be, especially for his character, it could be something like, you know, he's not looking to have that level of, you know, work or attention at this point. Because if you're a champion now, you're expected to defend it, and he's pretty cool wrestling once a month, you know, type, whatever that is, you know. Because isn't that the thing about kids? Like they're useless and they don't know nothing, and they don't feel like doing nothing. Exactly. They don't want to work, you know. Yeah. They're all quitting their jobs at Jack in the Box or whatever. So you know, it's like that fits into his gimmick too. So
Yeah. Okay. And I
perfect.
mean, I like it. You know what I mean? That's and of course, somebody mentioned Jake Cargill, which we'll talk about that tonight. I'm sure we'll correlate that with the first segment here in SmackDown tonight. It's interesting how there's a lot of correlation right now with AEW and some of the WWE product and how we can relate it to like what to do and what not to do almost in a way right now having watched both and of course I'm excited for next week with the Texas Death Match with Cowboy because Lance is my man and
Mm-hmm.
I just have a feeling they're going to fuck him over again and he's not going to get another belt. And I mean,
You think?
yeah, I mean, I know where this is going. That's the shitty part is even after like giving Kingman that choke slam on the steps there and then putting him through that table. I
It's
just
it's
I don't
it's
know.
like I said. It's like I said. Doing Light the Fuse like with Ben the other week. If Lance Archer had not lost a match since he started there, this would be a lot more intriguing.
Yeah,
As it is, I don't know if he's won a match. So it's like that's where it's like now you get the sense of like, well, he's just being fed so that Hangman Page can get a quality win.
right.
But it's not even a quality win. Well, why is it a quality win? Because Lance is tall?
Yeah.
I mean, that's not a quality win. A quality win would be if Lance had been killing everybody and doing his thing like he should have been since day one. That's a quality win. Now it just makes both guys look bad.
Well, he did beat Moxley for the IWGP United States Heavyweight title for that small period of time when Moxley, when they were here in Texas and they put him through the barbed wire table right in front of his sister and nieces and nephews to win that
Right.
match.
And it probably killed them to do that.
Yeah, I know, right?
Like, God, well, man, we got to get this belt off Moxley somehow. We wish it wasn't you, Lance, but all right, fine.
Right, because
that wasn't even the plan, right? Wasn't he? Didn't he like substitute for somebody?
and then a couple weeks later, they got the title off of him and gave it to Tanahashi in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
You
Well, I
know,
thought did not Lance Archer sub for somebody to get the belt? Like somebody else got injured and Lance Archer came in, and then I forget who it was. I could be wrong.
that was back when Moxley couldn't make it to Japan. That was way back when Lance was still kind of with New Japan because him and Juice went at it because Moxley couldn't make it because of that tsunami, and so that he subbed in then, won it the first time, lost it to Moxley at Wrestle Kingdom that first night, and then later, so then Moxley, then they came back to AEW. Now Lance is in AEW. They wrestle in Texas for it. Then he gets it, but then 2 weeks later, when they have the New Japan battle for Los Angeles, Lance loses it to Tanahashi. And of course, is very gracious and not saying, if anybody, I'm glad to lose anybody to you. And Moxley's there and gets pissed and walks out. And so it's a whole. They never. I feel like they've never treated like they want. Like Lance is very interesting talking to him. He says New Japan taught him to be the monster, but they've never really let him be the monster in the sense of having the titles. I mean, even when him and Davey Boy were Killer Elite and they had the titles for the tag teams, they never held it very long. They had it for, I mean, comparative to God and some of these other guys, they didn't hold it for nearly as long as those other guys. It's almost like, okay, we like you being the big guys, but we don't want you to hold the titles really because we don't know what to do with you in that aspect. So go be the big guys, but yeah, okay.
It was the Killer Elite Squad, except they never killed anybody. They didn't win any matches, and they were only two guys.
Yeah, exactly. I know. It just, I don't know.
So, well, okay, but let me ask you though, because, and you can tell we're trying not to talk about SmackDown, but if you, as somebody that has a personal, connection to Lance Archer, and when you look at his entire career, working from TNA to WWE to New Japan to AEW, and he's never been used to what you would think is his potential, which you could understand that in TNA, like early in his career when he doesn't really know shit, but like now I'm pretty sure he's kind of gets it and nothing's changed. So why is it, and you don't have to betray any confidences or whatever, but just from your sense of knowing him and talking with him, why do you feel that nobody wants to use him that way?
Because he's a good guy. But at the end of the day, Lance is a good guy, and he wants to do what's best for everybody.
Right.
And so he will take the back seat to put somebody over. I see it in some of these independent shows, some of these other things that he does. He's a good dude. I mean, really, he's a good mentor to a lot of guys here in Texas, some of the younger guys. But I think at the end of the day, he's a good dude. That's part of what it is. And and as they say, good guys finish last. And so sometimes I think that's what it is with him. But like I know a lot of guys that he mentors, and I know a lot of guys that he just does stuff for. And like I'll see matches here, and it's like, yeah, okay, I'll do it. But at the end of the day, he's looking to get paid and have fun. And that's what he's, really, from everything I see talking, and just in general from my overview, it's for him, it's about the enjoyment, the, moving forward with it and doing what he wants. And so the fact that he can, he likes the Murder Hawk character because it's fun and he can kind of do what he wants with it. But I don't think for him, it's not about belts and titles and,
No.
He just wants to enjoy what he's doing. And, I mean, I can understand it because sometimes being the champ is a pain in the ass, so if you can be that big monster and, oh, well, I get the title or I don't, I think that's never been an issue for him,
it's not always about being a mark for yourself. Like he clearly doesn't seem like he is. And it's not even a question of that, but like, and it's not about complaining about your spot either. It's not even anything to do with Lance. It's just like, why don't people see how they could use him? And when I say use him correctly, it doesn't mean just beating everybody for the championship.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't mean that. What it means is though, you can at least use him to like, if you have no plans for him, you should just have him on TV beating guys that you have even less plans for than him.
Right.
And that way, when these type of situations come along where it's like, okay, we need to give Adam Page something. Here's a guy that we want to, have him work with. Then it's like, well, shit. Oh, I've seen Lance Archer beat like 20 guys in a row. So now, even if they are nobodies, it's still like in your mind, all you think of is Lance Archer winning.
Right, which is what they're doing on Dark and Elevate, but that's the thing. Who watches that? I don't. And I mean, I see clips every now and then because it's like, okay, I'll watch then. And the latest bit is, Justin Roberts is throwing his opponent to the ring because he's walking out with his opponent and shoving him into the ring and like, literally manhandling the person. But again, it's like that's on Dark and Elevation. Who's watching those things to see that? So when Lance comes out, with Dan Lambert and Jake the Snake Roberts, it's like most of the people haven't seen what he's been doing. That he has been, manhandling people to the ring and then beating the crap out of them even before they get into the ring and making it last 30 seconds. But we don't see that anywhere.
Well, we shouldn't have to have that on the internet shows because, when you think back to AEW when it first started going on, a lot of it was matches that were unnecessarily long. Mm-hmm. We don't need 14-minute women's tag matches that go through 2 breaks or whatever, right? Because you could have shaved a little bit off of that to give Lance Archer 3 minutes, including entrances, of beating a guy up that we do see on the main program.
Yeah.
So that we don't have to just say, oh, yeah, he's winning on Dark. Well, there should definitely, AEW's got it all set up. Everything is set up for them for success. They just need to put the pieces in order and get their house in order, because it's set up to have like a tiered system where you've got guys that guys that are on like a show like Rampage or whatever, and those guys could be like, when you have a certain amount of TV time on Rampage, then you can go up to Dynamite or whatever. Mm-hmm. And then you got a certain amount of time on Dark, you can go up to Rampage, and when you got a certain amount of time on Elevation, you can go up to Dark or whatever. Right. And those people should be used in those spots. The people that are winning on Dark should be losing on Rampage. You see what I mean? Like until and then when something clicks for Tony and he sees somebody like, oh man, they've been doing good and they've been doing exactly what I want, exactly how I wanted it. Now I'm going to put them in the winning spot and so on and so forth. But you've got a constantly rotating group of bodies, which they have so many people there, some under contract, some working, per appearance basis. So I just feel like there's a lot of stuff they could be doing. And Lance Archer should be at that thing where it's like, yes, he's a more of a name value recognition person, longer career. He should be in the Dynamite spot. Right. And if you can't think anything better than to just throw Serpentico at him once a week or whatever, then that's all you have to do. And it won't take too much TV time. Right. But it will be important if you're about to take this guy that only wrestles on fucking Dark and Elevation, and then you want to try to get people interested in a championship match with him. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that's really what it's about. But I can understand the nice guy thing because that's just how it is. You the squeaky wheel gets the grease, and that's why part of the thing is not to compare my path or me to Lance Archer, but it's one of the reasons I'm sitting here talking to you and not doing something else, because I feel like I'm pretty nice and I just don't want to stab people in the back, and I don't want to do the kind of things that it takes to get ahead. So I'd rather just be like, rather than say, this business isn't what I thought it was, let me make it into what I think it should be. I just say, no, this isn't for me, and step back, you know? Yeah. But I, as long as he is having fun and making money, that's all that really matters. Yeah. It's just that AEW's not helping themselves or Adam Page out with that, Yeah. When you've got a guy that's willing to do anything for you, it's kind of a missed opportunity for them. It is. But that's only one of many that they're missing.
Yeah, and like you said, this is a place that has the pieces to put a house in order. And I guess we need to talk about the big dogs who don't have their house in order. Whoa. And this is one of those things. So I guess let's go ahead and get started with SmackDown. We can talk about the 15-minute talking segment with Paul Heyman and we open with Roman Reigns after. Oh wait, don't forget we have the recap upon recap.
First 7 minutes, 2 recaps. Yeah, in the first 7 minutes of the show.
Yeah. So on top of all the talking that we have, so I at the same time too is Paul Heyman. How can I get mad at Paul Heyman and his intro and the way he talks and I liked it. I mean, he explained everything beautifully, very Machiavellian, very cerebral, and the fact that I've gotten the hand of mercy back from my tribal chief, and explaining everything, which I would have been fine if they ended it there, but then they brought in old Jade Cargill. I mean, Bill Goldberg to challenge. Roman Reigns at Elimination Chamber in Saudi Arabia. By the way, great branding there, WWE. We're going to do Elimination Chamber in a place that does public executions and beheadings. So,
don't forget that Goldberg is Jewish.
Oh yes, and Goldberg is Jewish, by the way. Yes, on top of that, the same place. So, is this the last time we're going to see Goldberg?
Maybe. Probably not, though.
You don't think
they might drag him out one more time?
You think WrestleMania?
Yeah, something like that. Okay. I think. Well, first of all, before we talk about Goldberg, I just want to address Paul Heyman's promo, which, of course, it was very entertaining, and we all love Paul Heyman, and there's really no disputing that. However, even he couldn't get me to buy this fucking terrible botch job they've done with this whole booking thing. Yeah, he explained his ass off. You're right. Yeah, he did. But even Paul couldn't make me buy it. I couldn't. I put the Kool-Aid down and said, no sipping for me today, sir. But I guess you got to give it up to him for trying, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that I didn't buy.
Yeah.
Now,
Well, we knew that. We knew that from the beginning that he's trying to sell his app on it, and we're going, no, everybody just fucked up.
right.
But at least I got to hear Paul Heyman say it and be a little bit entertained by it, in that aspect of it. So that made that point. So, you know,
Yeah.
but
So now Goldberg. Well, I guess we were promised this match. So they're just finally delivering on their promise. If you really want to look at it that way, this was supposed to be in empty WrestleMania, but
that's right. That's right. But then Roman got sick, I think, or whatever.
Yeah, and that's when we got the ill-fated Braun Strowman championship win, which we in retrospect now, looking back at that must have killed them to have to do that. Yeah. Knowing that they had no plans for this man. They were just biding their time till they could cut him, and had to put the belt on him for a while. It must have pissed everybody off.
Yeah.
It's like, damn it, you have to give him the championship, damn it. But so here we are now getting the match that we were already promised and we knew was going to be terrible. For anybody that really thinks Roman Reigns is one of the best in the world, we're going to see just how good he really fucking is here. Because Goldberg has gone toe-to-toe with some of the best, and I don't know if... I just don't. I don't know if any of them were able to get much out of him, but
yeah. And that's always the problem, isn't it? Is how do you have a decent match with someone like Goldberg, who's a one-trick pony, blows up by the time he gets to the ring. Which, I mean, I would probably blow up by the time I get to the ring. But I'm just saying, this guy is supposed to be a wrestler. He's supposed to be able to get there, and nobody even. And I mean, granted, do you think people were actually chanting Goldberg's name when he was in that arena in Oklahoma City last night, or do you think that was piped in? It sounded piped in to me, just because of the recap later. It sounded very piped in, in the same aspect.
I think there was probably a good portion of people chanting it, I would guess, because even you know how the WWE fans are. It's like a call and response thing. Even if they don't like the person, if somebody does a catchphrase, they're gonna sing along with the catchphrase. True. They just like that. So when they see Goldberg, even if they're not really that hyped for Goldberg, they'll just get caught up in the moment and do it, and then go back to not caring about him later. But there must be something to a WWE fan who goes out of their way and buys a ticket and travels out and sits there for all that time and they're like, damn it, I'm gonna get the most out of this and have fun. I don't care if I have to chant Goldberg or whatever. I'm not, you know what I mean? Like, yeah. And when you hear crowds be dead, which we'll talk about that too, like that means how bad must this really be if this live crowd that made all this effort just is not having it and refused to be a part of it. That's right. They're actively turning their fans off. But I think there's probably a decent portion of Goldberg fans. And to the people in the chat always asking, like what does anybody care about Goldberg and stuff? It's like, well, maybe the majority of the kind of people we're going to run into in the circle of internet fans and smart fans and stuff like that. Like probably not. Most people don't really care about Goldberg anymore, and we're tired of him. Going back to that whole not good in the ring thing, like I talked about earlier, like they'll always pull that on somebody when it's convenient for them. But think about the reason they're wheeling him out is because they have this big show that they have to, even though it's probably a bought show in Saudi Arabia, right? But that's who they perceive to be a big name value worldwide. Is a Goldberg. Like that's somebody they would know, and how many of you guys, come on, how many you listen to Hameen Media, how many times have you heard Ben Hameen say like they're the ones that thought that they could get Yokozuna and the Ultimate Warrior, like they're not, which I don't really know if that's really true, but you could at least say even if they did know that those guys were already passed on, they still have heard of Goldberg or things like that just because he was a big name, in the late 90s when wrestling was at its biggest. So, I don't know. Maybe they only know him because they Googled wrestling for like, and you see the most popular points in time. Like, if we're going to spend millions of dollars to bring this over here as an entertainment feature, maybe we should look into the history of it. And then they say, oh, this guy's still alive. Okay. Well, why not bring Goldberg in? I hear he was popular once. Who knows how that shit really goes? We don't know, but, I'm always excited to see Goldberg, and I never miss an opportunity to say this on a podcast is, I'm always excited because you never know when Goldberg's going to fall over. So if you can be there to witness it, then that's a level of entertainment, I guess, that we can get out of it.
Yeah. Lab Rat says Goldberg's probably going to knock himself out with the fight again. Yeah. And by the way, Sir Jam, he did hurt somebody, a la Bret Hart, and he's still wrestling. Goldberg's still going.
He hurt Undertaker recently. He hurt a lot of people.
Yeah, and he's still doing it.
How many people do you think he hurt that just were in no position to say anything? Like all those guys in WCW during the streak, like that he probably just killed, and like because they were only ever on that show that one time, that you never heard from them. So like, who is Roadblock to say Goldberg hurt me?
Yeah, I know, right? Because those guys, that's got to be one of those things. If you go like, hey, I'm gonna be an extra for WCW this week. Oh, cool. What do I got? Oh, fuck, I got Goldberg. Like, it's all right. Spear, jackhammer down, 1, 2, 3. But like he, from everything I've heard, is like in those early years, man, he did not know how to throttle down, and so those spears were nasty.
A lot of guys don't. And so here's where I can speak to some expertise and add a little more flavor that you might not normally get when you have McIver and John on by themselves. But so like, I'm sure that I've been in the ring with guys that were way worse than Goldberg. I'm sure I have. And the thing about it is you don't realize when you're learning, you don't realize how tense you are naturally. Everything that you do, you have to learn to loosen up, even in just the simplest, just from a collar and elbow. Because if you were really collar and elbow a guy, you're like really going to get in there and do it, and your muscles tense up and stuff like that. And you have to do that for an instant when it first makes contact, but then you have to relax and then have the illusion that you're actually struggling when in reality you're loose and stuff like that. A lot of guys never learn that, and that may be because nobody ever explains to guys like Goldberg. Maybe nobody helped Goldberg and taught him those little things. Maybe they did and he just didn't listen. Maybe lots of guys told him different things and he was just confused. These are all things that happen in wrestling that don't really get talked about because most people are just like, they're just fans doing a podcast it's pure conjecture and they don't have any experience, or it's older veteran wrestlers who not that into talking about the ins and outs of the trade secrets and stuff like that. So they don't really think about it like that. But there's so many like guys that are like bodybuilders and or football players that someone just said, hey, you're big, you should be a wrestler because your career didn't work out. And a lot of those guys came through OVW and they gave it a try. If anybody remembers, what's his name? His name is Rich Young. He was in the WWE as Ricky Ortiz or Atlas Ortiz. Do you remember any of those?
I remember Atlas Ortiz. That sounds familiar.
Yes, yeah. Atlas Ortiz. Like he had a thing, big guy, a lot of charisma. He played in the original XFL. He had like a towel. He would try to get like a rally towel thing going, and I think John Cena probably shut it down and said, "Hey, the towel's my thing" or whatever. But great guy, cool guy or whatever, ex-football player. Dude, he speared the shit out of me. He has no idea. Like, how you don't have any idea how strong you are. And a guy like Goldberg is just thinking like, well, I got to make this look good. Everybody's, in wrestling, people are like, make it look good, So, you can't really fault Goldberg for, that aspect of it because we don't really know what all his training was like. Right. You can fault him for being a mark for himself and not realizing what wrestling was and what the business was, but again, we don't know like what was around him to make him that way.
Right, which
You
I
know,
was going to ask that because I hear a lot, make it look good. A lot of old, especially like you hear podcasts with Ric Flair, he always tell like, all right, kid, make this look good. So it makes you wonder. I was like, okay, what is that? Like, if I'm a younger wrestler, what does that mean? Does that mean I just punch this guy in the face? Like, I mean, am I supposed to like really lock up? Like, how? But if I've never been taught that, I've been taught, okay, this is how you do it. This is why you make it. This is, of course, we're, like you said, loose and, having talked to some trainers and how they talk about things. But, like, then you get somebody who's a veteran who says, okay, make this look good. Like, does that mean like, how if I've never been taught that, I don't know what that even means. How do I, does that just means I go hard and, I give you a potato because it looks good when I give you a potato because that's real. So I don't know. I guess
it often doesn't look good when you give somebody a potato because they're not ready for it. And, a working punch it looks way better than a shoot punch. You know what I mean? Like, so if you think like shoot like punches look good, then what? Then Shane McMahon must be your favorite wrestler because he's really punching those guys. It just doesn't look good.
Yeah, no.
But so for example, Goldberg, we know that he was in the power plant to start out.
Sure.
Now in the power plant, you got guys that, they're supposed to be like the next crop of talent, but those veteran wrestlers, like who was it? Who was in charge of the power plant? I can't remember.
Sergeant Parker.
Sergeant Parker, Buddy Lee Parker, is that his name or something like that? Or I apologize if I don't remember the name, but
that sounds familiar. Yeah,
a guy like that, even though it's his job to train these guys, he's fucking in his old veteran mind. He's trying to make them quit.
Yeah,
because he doesn't want it. First and foremost, he doesn't want guys who just think this is an easy payday. He wants to weed out like that. And I'm not saying that's a wrong mentality or a bad mentality, but you also have to realize like you could have some really talented people that if you treat them like shit for no reason, you missed out on a lot of money right there. Because there's sometimes those guys, they're not doing it just the tough love thing. They really are assholes and they really are just doing stuff to bully you. So Goldberg's not being taught like anything really about the business. He's being made to do drills that make him puke because they want him to quit. So what is a guy's attitude like that going to be other than first and foremost, just I'm going to shove it down this guy's throat and make it in spite of what he's trying to do to me? You think he really cares about learning about the politics of stuff? He's only got one thing on his mind, which is surviving this training so that he can, stick it up this guy's ass that he hates. And then you get there, and then, of course, a WCW, Shark Tank, all these fucking Kevin Nashes and stuff.
Yeah.
Everybody's telling you different shit. You don't know who to believe because some guys really are trying to help you. Other guys are giving you they're sabotaging you under the guise of advice because they don't want you to come and get their spot or whatever the case may be, or they just think it's funny, they just think it's a rib or whatever. So Goldberg did not have the ideal entry into the business, and as a result his development was stunted. He could have been one of the greats, perhaps I say, because of course his own attitude does play into it. Everybody says he's a nice guy, but then the things that he does and says kind of like, well, I can draw my own conclusions from that. So I don't know, man, but in any case, it's Roman's problem now. Yeah. And so we don't have to worry about if Goldberg's turned over a new leaf. All he's got to do is get through this 6 or 7 minutes with Roman and not kill him and not kill the golden goose. And but that is largely up to Roman. Yeah. And just to answer your question earlier about like the guys that are saying make it look good and what does that mean? A lot of times they'll be saying that to somebody that they don't have to work with them. You know what I mean? Like if you got a Terry Taylor backstage at WCW saying make it look good out there, and it's like some job guy that's never going to be back.
Right.
Goldberg ain't gonna, like if Terry Taylor had to work that match, you can damn sure he wouldn't be saying make it look good. He'd be like, okay, this is exactly how you do it.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
Gotcha. So so people, Tony Khan and a few other people have started to say Jade Cargill is the next Bill Goldberg.
Mm-hmm.
I do you feel? I mean, I don't. I think not, because she, to me, is improving her work every time that she's gone out there. She's looking better every time in the ring. I feel like, whereas Goldberg was always just that one trick pony. I think Cargill has shown more development in the ring than Goldberg has. And I mean, I like the pairing of Smart Mark Sterling with her as well. It keeps her off the mic, because I just don't feel like she's a strong promo. But it's building that mystique, like you talked about earlier with Hook, with her in the Jade Cargill character of like, come out, kick some ass, keep going, being undefeated, and making it go, who's going to be that person? Now it's not how do you get the title off of her, it's who's going to be that person who could take the title off of her, because she's coming out and she's having some, I think decent matches, in the sense of selling her size, selling the fact that she is heads and shoulders above literally anybody in that ring as far as the physicality of it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't necessarily think that she's the smoothest or the sharpest, but she's getting better at it every week. And at least, whereas I can't say that with Goldberg, because Goldberg was, well, I'm going to spear, I'm going to jackhammer, and then I'm going to walk out the door. At least we're getting something from Cargill out of these things. But do you feel that's a warranted comparison?
Warranted comparison? No, she's already better than Bill Goldberg. The fact is, Jade Cargill's amazing, and I understand that like people aren't going to get that, because you look at her and you see the opportunities missed, and you see the mistakes, and you see all this other stuff. She should not at this point have been anywhere near a televised match. So for her to be as good as she is, with the amount of matches that she's had, like every match she's ever had, you've seen it.
Mm-hmm.
No matches in like a practice in front of students, no like house shows in front of 10 people, none of that. Every match she's had has been on TV and you've seen them all. Mm-hmm. She is doing just fine. The problem is there are very few women that can carry somebody in that position there. Most of the women on AEW's roster need to be carried. And unfortunately, they're putting them in the ring with Jade. So it's the blind leading the blind in a lot of cases. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
she's in an unenviable position, but she'll be just fine. She's only going to get better. She's already better than, like I said, Goldberg. She's better than Chyna. Sorry. Better than any of those ever were or ever will be. And she's taking to this her what's the word, aptitude for wrestling is very good, very good. Yeah. She's got the same issues that a lot of women do, which she doesn't realize how slow she is or moves sometimes, or she's trying to remember what they had talked about, rather than reacting and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. So as long as Serena's there and can help her out with those things, which she will, she'll be fine.
Yeah. I mean, because really, Serena and probably Thunder Rosa are the only two on that roster could really carry somebody through a match, I would think.
Yeah, even like people always look at Thunder Rosa as a veteran, but like, dude, she's only been wrestling 5 years.
Yeah, no,
which is nothing. Which is absolutely nothing. The only thing less than that is Jade Cargill. So it's like, it's even Thunder Rosa. Yeah. Cujo saying, I've never seen someone so athletic look so athletic. And again, I understand, but you have to look at it in the perspective of, most people that are at the stage that she's on have been doing this for like 10 times longer than she has. Mm-hmm. Not just in terms of years, but just in terms of matches. So, this is it's very unfair, all things considered, to ask more of her, and I think she's doing very well. Yeah. But I do see what you guys, see, like what Liz is saying, I can see the gears turning in Jade Cargill's head a lot of time.
Yeah.
That's just unavoidable. Guess what? I see a lot of people in AEW's gears turning all the time.
Mm-hmm.
You know, anybody that thinks a tope is just a casual offensive move, you know? So, you know, she's in good company, I guess. But, and another thing is, Aaron asked me earlier a question, which was, how, because we were talking about training, and he said about Rip Rogers, how was Rip Rogers as a trainer? Right. So Rip Rogers would basically cuss you out all the time, but it was in a way that, at least for me, maybe other people were intimidated, but for me, I could see what he was trying to do, which is just to not sugarcoat things. But he cussed you out and did not sugarcoat things with information involved, explaining, using examples or visual like demonstrations or things like that, as he's calling you a cocksucker, a motherfucker, a fat bitch, or any of the other things that he would call you. He's teaching you at the same time. He didn't need to worry about trying to run anybody out of the business, because the more people he had paying him to train, the more money he was making. So that's the business of him. He doesn't give a shit. You know, he wants you to make it, but he doesn't want you to quit the business. He doesn't really care whether you love wrestling or whatever, as long as you give him the money. Mm-hmm. So that was his training style. It seemed very harsh on the surface. And if people don't like harsh language, they're definitely going to feel personally attacked. But for me, the first time I heard him cussing people out, I was like, okay, I feel like at home and comfortable with this.
Yeah, because it felt like a football practice. Like that's how some of our football coaches were. They cuss you out, but with a purpose and a meaning behind it, not necessarily just to do it for the fun of it. So,
Sure.
All right, I guess we need to talk about this back-to-back match where we had Ricochet versus Rick Holland, and we see Ricochet gets the win with Cesaro and Sheamus arguing outside. And then what happens? Oh, let's go ahead and make a tag team match, playa. Right back to back. You know,
no Teddy Long or nothing.
No Teddy Long or nothing. So Sheamus and Rich Holland versus Ricochet and Cesaro back to back. And I mean,
the craziest thing to me, John, about this whole thing was that we had Rich Holland come out for an entrance, then we went to break, and then when we came back, Ricochet was getting an entrance.
Yeah.
Like no other recap, no ads for anything, or no backstage vignettes or nothing. It was just actually the two entrances. It was very, very crazy.
Which we don't see anymore half the time.
No.
Either someone's already in the ring or we get an ad break or something. So we had that. All right, let's talk about the first match, the singles match. You have Ridge Holland versus Ricochet. Of course, they're building this because day one, which they did show that Ricochet breaks Ridge Holland's nose. Sorry.
Yes, Ricochet definitely.
Sorry about that.
A rare mistake from Ricochet.
Yeah, which they're building on as this whole premise for this this feud, because now Ridge has to wear this mask and everything along those lines. So do you think this is a strong premise for a feud, or is it just something to do? Because some say, oh, this is Ricochet getting his Sheamus beating the crap out of him the other day was like his receipt for the broken nose, but it seems like they're using this as a feud for these four guys in a way. Like, I don't know. I'm tired of seeing it already. I guess, it makes no sense to me that, but of course, then again, this is SmackDown, where we watch guys wrestle 6 times in a row, with very different, finishes here and there and everywhere in between. So I get the idea that they're pairing Ridge Holland and Sheamus together, and they're supposed to be these fighting lads in the brawling streets, and then I don't understand where Ricochet and Sheamus and Cesaro come together.
Especially Cesaro.
It makes. No
I guess
sense.
they're just like, oh well, because you and Sheamus used to be a tag team, you're involved in this now, Cesaro, and you ain't doing shit else. Yeah. And he's like, I'm only not doing shit else because you're not giving me anything else.
Yeah,
but yeah, they're just treading water.
Yeah, and it's not like I mean I don't know. They showed the slow-mo video. They did show that replay package on from day one, and you could see he did. Ricochet landed on his face and busted his nose. And I mean, it healed maybe, but I mean, he's wearing that goofy, face mask thing, which I mean, I know guys who
That
busted their nose.
was that's from the props department. They can't waste it. They got to get a little more mileage out of it.
I guess. But I mean, I've seen guys where come back, having a broken nose a week or two later playing football, and they wear the thing to protect their nose.
Yeah.
Um, so it's definitely interesting in that aspect. But of course, we have the first match. I don't know. It was a match. I didn't think anything special about it. There was nothing where I went, oh my gosh. Ricochet is always a fun time to watch. But it was just a match, and Ricochet gets the win. And then I guess Sheamus felt like, okay, I've got to get involved now. So because him and Cesaro were arguing, and then he gives Pat McAfee his stuff, so that Pat McAfee's wearing it on the thing, and we're gonna have a tag team match. Which, again, I don't know. It was a match. I don't feel like there was anything special about either of these things. It did nothing for anybody. I don't feel anybody progressed in the storyline whatsoever. And it just, like you said, treading water. It felt like we don't have anything else to do with these guys, but we need to go do something with them. So here we go. Let's go do that.
And that would be okay if but they're making it seem like they really are doing something. Mm-hmm. They're making it seem like this is their long-term stories and booking, and that we're supposed to be invested in this. That's why. If you just randomly put 4 guys in a tag team match every week and they had nothing to do with each other, you could say, okay, well, that's just a chance to get these guys out there in front of the crowd and let some people see some of their favorites and have a match, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with doing that on TV once in a while. But when it's the same people, you're like, okay, well, you're clearly going somewhere with this. Where are you going? And then when they never go anywhere, then that makes, unfairly for all these guys, that makes them seem like lesser than and less important.
Mm-hmm.
So, when you see stuff like Roman Reigns and the Paul Heyman thing, even though that whole thing we already talked about was, you fucked up, this story was shitty and you just tried to do a bunch of stuff to cover your fuck ups, or to make up for the COVIDs or whatever else you were doing. But we know that Roman and Paul and Brock and all that stuff, we know that's going to go somewhere because that's the top story. But we don't think anything's going to happen with Sheamus, Cesaro, Ricochet, and Holland, which that hasn't already happened. I mean, I'm pretty sure everybody's beat everybody in some form or fashion in this, whatever they're doing. Right. So where are you going to go with it? Are these guys going to get a steel cage? No, probably not. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or a Ridge Holland's mask on a pole match. Like what are you going to do that's going to make this interesting? Yeah. All these guys deserve better than this, and they need to be split off into their own stuff.
Right. And I mean, I could see all 4 of these guys going for the Intercontinental title. These all, I think all 4 guys could be, in for that fight. I think that would be, 4 great contenders for there. Especially Ridge Holland, the way he looks and the way he wrestles. I enjoy the way he does his thing, very Sheamus-esque, which I enjoy Sheamus' form of wrestling as well. Ricochet and Cesaro bring something different, very athletic and very powerhouse athletic, in that aspect with Cesaro. But I think that's, I think the problem is right now they haven't done anything with the Intercontinental title. They eventually are going to, do something with it, but it's almost like they don't know what to do with Shinsuke with the Intercontinental title.
Oh, we'll get to that. Let's save that for when we get to it.
We will, but I'm just saying it's like, but the only thing that makes any of this tolerable has been Pat McAfee. I at least can get on board with, like him wearing the Sheamus outfit, dancing on the table, and Michael Cole going, "Hey, you're gonna pull a hamstring, get down from there." Getting Michael Cole to kind of interact and play a lot more. Pat McAfee makes the show just that much, a little bit more tolerable in that aspect of when I watch these shows, I can at least know Pat McAfee is going to say something that'll entertain me. Even with this matching, there were some things that he did that I was like, okay, that was good. I like that. I'm at least following and paying attention because Pat McAfee has said something, to where I'm entertained on that aspect. So that's the only saving grace for some of these things, which is sad because Three of the four guys for sure are great wrestlers in Cesaro, Sheamus, and Ricochet. And Rich Holland is working his way to be there. But we just, it's sad that we haven't done anything with them yet in that aspect. And they're stuck here in this middle of the road, which I then guess we got to go to the next part, which is the Usos or Jimmy Uso versus Eric. Which this match pissed me off. This match pissed me off so much.
By the time I got around to paying attention to it, it was already over.
Yeah. 3 minutes. It was 3 minutes. Like Jimmy Uso beating Eric in 3 minutes. This is this is supposed to be your number one contender for your tag team titles versus, your champ. And it takes 3 minutes for one to beat the other. And there was a stupid, Ivar on the outside. I mean, I hate calling them Eric and Ivar. They're War Machine and they're Hanson and Rowe. Hanson on the outside doing a dive and Jay stepping out of the way and causing a distraction and super kick and I just like, really 3 minutes, and that's what it took. I mean, these guys are badass dudes. In real life, they're badass dudes, and yet we're doing. I don't know. Is it that we're trying to make the Usos look strong before the fall that they're about to happen to the Viking Raiders, or are we just, again, we don't know what to do with the Viking Raiders, so we're going to put them in this title shot, kind of like Lance Archer, and then we're going to just put them back down again because they've lost, because we don't know what to do with the Viking Raiders.
It could be. I'll put it to you like this. They owe those guys. They owe the Viking Raiders for all the shit that they've done, probably with smiles on their faces. Release my wife, all this shit, like make me do these things with the street profits, playing games and fighting ninjas and with a turkey leg every week. And you owe those guys something. Yeah. However, I don't know if the tag team titles is a greater prize or more of a punishment, because the Usos have done nothing to elevate the tag team titles, which look, that's not on them. Nothing could have elevated those tag team titles. I don't care if The Rock and Stone Cold came out of retirement on the same night and won the SmackDown tag team titles. Nobody gives a fuck about the SmackDown tag team titles, nor will they. So it's not the Usos' fault. But if you want to do anything at all to at least have the semblance in public, a public apology to the Viking Raiders, just let them win the SmackDown Tag Team Championships and maybe just have a match with a decent tag team at WrestleMania or something. Right. That would be the least you could do. And you could always give it back to the Usos or something at some point. It's fine. Yeah. But at least just a nice little thank you for all the shit that they've had to put up with since they've been there. That's all I would say about it.
Yeah. I mean, and that's I guess that's my hope, because the Viking Raiders, War Machine, when they were in ROH in New Japan, they were I loved what they did. And then since they've been to WWE, they've just treated them like shit, and they've taken everything and done everything that's been asked of them. And then and I honestly, I feel like this is one of the few times I'll say that this is a team that deserves these titles. They deserve, to wear these things, to represent the company with pride, and to do it in a right way, not in the, chicken shit way like they kind of did with the Street Profits and all that kind of stuff. Do it the right way. Do it the way they're supposed to. These guys are badasses. Let them be badasses. Let them do the things that they need to do. And, I just hope that they don't continue. It feels like they diminish these guys all the time as much as they can, when I hope this is just, okay, we're going to let you think that they're that bad, but when it comes time to whenever this match is going to happen, which I think, have they said? Because it was supposed to be, my understanding, it was supposed to be at Royal Rumble, but now they haven't. They said
I think it's at the Chamber.
Is it at the Chamber now?
I think so. I think they may have even had a graphic saying it.
Yeah.
But, whatever. I mean, I don't know, I guess. Or they could just go back to making up their own Viking songs and doing carpool karaoke. We could just do that. We don't need to have matches.
No, I need matches from them. I need them being badasses. I need them being, the Viking Raiders, the War Machine, whatever it is that they want to do. They were great like that. So
I just want to let you know, John, that I fully support you calling the wrestlers whatever you want to call them or whatever you feel that they were the most over as, because in the business, that's what you do. You
Yeah.
call somebody how you met them or whatever their gimmick name is that's most over. So, if you say War Machine and you call him Hanson or Rowe, I know who you're talking about, and so does everybody else. So,
Yeah.
you do that. I support that. I refuse to call anybody Braun Breaker. That's Rick Steiner Jr. right there.
Yeah, exactly. That's oh my god, exactly. That's a and it, I get man, talk about losing money, not calling him Rick Steiner Jr. I mean, come
He
on,
says it was his idea. I
bullshit,
don't think so.
bullshit. Vince
I
McMahon came here.
disagree. I think he's just trying to be a good company guy.
Yeah, his dad said, "Whatever you do with Vince McMahon, just do what Vince McMahon says, and that's it."
Yeah.
You know.
And
So
he said for me to say that I said it.
yeah, exactly. I mean, so it's definitely, I guess, especially when you have someone like your dad who's a Hall of Famer and who's been there for a long time. No, look, if you want to survive in WWE, do whatever Vince McMahon tells you.
Now, as Cujo says, I think you should call the wrestlers by their preferred pronouns. That is correct, and the correct pronoun for every single wrestler, male or female, is brother. So,
brother.
Just there's your preferred pronoun.
It's brother. It's funny. Like
no, you got to have the hard. You got to have the R on it though.
Yeah,
you got to have the R. It's brother in wrestling.
Brother. Okay, so which is funny because when growing up in church and doing church ministry work for 20 years, that's the only place where brother is acceptable. Because but it's more brother. Hey brother, what's going on, my brother? What's happening? Hey brother John, what's the word? So it's less hard R. It's more like softer brother at the end of it. But it's funny. Like we were talking about something. We had a deal where I think Ted DiBiase came to speak at one of the churches I was working at, and met him.
And you brothered him.
I did. I said, brother Ted, what's happening? He's like, it ain't but I did it with the soft A, and so, and he goes, because I was just being, I don't know, I was being goofy,
right.
And because that's how I am. And he goes, all right, and because we had it was one of these summer camps where we had a ring set up on the beach, and we had Christian wrestlers coming in, and he was the highlight. He's talked from the ring and everything. And I was like, oh yeah, we're looking forward to tonight. And I said, love watching you grow up as a kid and stuff like that. And so he goes to we shake hands, and I give him like a not a super firm handshake, but like a just a nice handshake. And he's like, he kind of gives me a head cock, and he goes, brother, like wrestling brother. I'm like, what? No, like what? I mean, like. He's like, oh, okay, because he's like, he shook hands like people used to when I was wrestling. And I was like, what does that mean? Like, so he told me like how sometimes, when they go to shake hands, if you were a firm handshake, versus a soft handshake, what that meant and everything like that. And I'm going, oh, well, that's cool. Like I didn't so here he is, he's giving me like some, small wrestling history background stuff when he wrestled about handshakes. And I'm going, I never knew that. Like that's, weird, that a handshake would determine, what people thought of you as a wrestler.
It could sometimes, but not every. See, the thing about wrestling is not everybody was, especially back in those days, smartened up to every aspect. Like some guys had a guy that took them under the wing, smartened them up on everything. Other guys just got thrown in there, and when the bell rang for their very first match, they still didn't know if it was a shoot or not. So depending on who you were, you could have different levels of being inside on that. So you may never know about the handshake thing, or but even the handshake thing, it was not universal. There's a lot of old veteran wrestlers that will tell you like, look, you're a man, shake hands like a man. You don't have to break the guy's arm off,
right?
But you can still you should always shake hands firmly. You should never give anybody the dead fish handshake just to prove that you're a fucking wrestler, which guys have done to me. And I've looked at them like, are you kidding? Like this is the 2000s.
Yeah.
Stop it.
Yeah.
So yeah. Or you could be like Gene Snitsky and just give a nice, polite, firm handshake, but then a hard downward yank and tear your shoulder out of the socket. So,
But it wasn't his fault. It wasn't.
No, it never
was his fault. All right, so next we get Aaliyah versus Natalya. Again,
guys, you know what? Do you guys know how Aaliyah? Speaking of all this old veteran stuff, Aaliyah is fucking grizzled at this point. I don't know if you realize this. She's only been on SmackDown a couple weeks, but she's been a wrestler for She's been at NXT for like 8 years.
Yeah.
Dude, they even said on her graphic, like, she was on the WWE show Breaking Ground. What was that, like 2014?
Yeah.
It was forever ago. Dude, she's now had a longer run than Austin in the WWE, and they're making it seem like she's the fresh-faced new kid on the block who's never done nothing. It's like, I'm damn sure you start at the same time as Natalya. You probably have more matches than her too. You know, man. Remember all those times she sat off on TV crying to her husband about why they weren't using her? You know, Aaliyah was probably having matches in the Florida towns. So
apparently she used to be on Impact before WWE.
Probably not with any regularity though.
Yeah. Yeah. But as Bella calls her, Carmella Dark, since she's
you know what? Inappropriate.
Yeah, well, I don't know. All right, so then we see here she has, she wins the match because, again, Natalya can't control herself and gets counted out. And, once because she's beating up on her so much, but then Aaliyah manages to get into the ring while being beat to half to death, but makes it into the ring before Natalya for another victory over Natalya. And I think this is like week 3 now, where this has happened by where it's not been by pinfall or submission, which is important because it comes back later on. That'll come back, but I mean, why was this here? Why was it?
Hey, you know what? Remember we were talking about piped in crowd noise earlier?
Yeah.
They surely would have used it here if they were doing that, because these people didn't make us sound.
No.
This is like an old Sprint commercial.
Yeah.
You could hear a pin drop in there. Nobody cared at all. They're done with Natty. They don't care enough about Aaliyah. They're not buying any of this. It's unfortunate, but that's just how it is. Like, and they were, the Oklahoma people. They don't have a lot. So, they're going to get up for this stuff. And if you can't get these people interested in something, that's when it's death. It's dead air. And so, unfortunately, they weren't that into this. And neither am I. And it doesn't sound like neither are you.
No.
I know that this is a standard tactic of where they probably try somebody that they're trying to bury, maybe like a baby face where I'll be like, okay, so we'll do a thing where you keep losing, and then they don't tell them what's going to happen, but the idea being that maybe they'll get their comeuppance at some point after a certain period of time. They usually do that with a baby face and then just never give it to them. Right. It's weird though that they're doing it with the heel but it just shows you like what they really think of Natalya. She's like probably a joke to a lot of the people in the office, and they don't really, they think she thinks more highly of herself than she deserves to, or whatever the case may be. And they may be right. So they're letting this play out in the opposite thing on TV. Like, Natalya's never going to get any heat back or anything like that. And even if she does get one win, like, no one will remember it and they won't care. So
yeah,
it's a weird political thing that you're actually seeing a weird political thing play out right now with Natty at the office and all this other stuff.
Yeah. Do you feel that it's warranted? Do you feel like she's a better wrestler than people give her credit for? Or do you think because she is attached to that Bret Hart legacy that's what more gave her the semblance of being a better wrestler?
I think, okay, when it comes to wrestling matches and doing moves and stuff, I think Natalya's fine. But she doesn't know how to get over. Mm-hmm. She doesn't know how psychology works, or, what to do situationally. She's not, and she's also like heavily a product of the WWE machine. She's been in it so long, she's probably just brainwashed to their way of doing things, and she can't do anything to get over that, either because she's not allowed or she doesn't know how. I feel like Dolph Ziggler is in a similar situation of the males, where he really is a man without a country, where no one will ever fully like him as a babyface, even though they respect him because he's such a douchebag looking guy.
Mm.
But he also does not know how to get any heat, any real heat as a heel, other than being a douchebag. So they can't really hate him. So in the end, he just has the same match with everybody, and nobody cares. And that's kind of where Natalia's at. She doesn't know how to get somebody over in the ring or herself or anything. And she, as Liz pointed out, she keeps getting these plastic surgeries, and she's starting to look more and more like a lot of these women are starting to look more and more like the Land of Confusion video from the 80s, right? So it's like, just stop already. Yeah, I don't know. It's an unfortunate situation all around. You know, speculation aside, facts aside, it's just, I think we can all agree that there's better use of television time than this.
Mm-hmm.
On the plus side, though, it wasn't a recap of anything, even though there probably was a recap somewhere around here.
Yeah.
At least the match itself wasn't a recap.
Yeah. And I mean, and so then after this, we see Drew McIntyre come out, and he was talking about his attack on day one, and he almost missed the Rumble. He had a score to settle with Brock, but he has his sights set on Corbin and Moss first, because that's more important than Brock Lesnar, damn it, is Corbin and Moss, you know? And so they interrupt him, and, you know, and Corbin, you know, tries to distract Drew while Moss tries to blindside him, and McIntyre raised his sword and stopped him. And Drew asked Moss to tell a joke and then hit him with a Claymore before walking out, which, again, why does Drew have a sword if he's not going to use the sword? Again, I like this. These are the things like him, and then Xia Li when she comes out with the, you know, the different fighting like Chinese knives or whatever, and then throws them to the side to run to the ring. It was like, fucker, you have knives.
Well, at least she realizes she ain't gonna kill nobody. Right. Drew McIntyre had the sword pointed right at Moss. Like, do it. Just fucking kill him right there in front of everybody. I'm sure Fox will love it.
Yeah.
Just so my thing was
in Saudi Arabia. They would in Saudi Arabia for sure.
Yeah, definitely. Inappropriate. You know, what I noticed was like the thing that I hesitate to use the word pop me because it didn't. It just more made me roll my eyes. But like when they had the graphic up that said McIntyre on the warpath, like what the fuck does that? What does that mean, dude? Yeah. Get that shit out of here, bro.
Like he
on the warpath,
walking around beating shit out of everybody and breaking shit and all that. That's a warpath. You know, like when Brock does that kind of, that's a warpath. Drew was just walking around with his sword and going, hey, all right, and walks to the ring. You know, I mean, and then what? Claymore's a guy, and then points his sword at the other guy. You know, I mean, I don't know. It feels like they're almost intentionally trying to keep Drew away from the main title picture. I mean, is it because he's hurt and they're trying to slowly bring him back? But even before this, it felt like this is the case. You know, why would you let somebody like Drew McIntyre, a known main eventer, why would you keep him away from the main event for as long as they have been at this point? Because he hasn't done anything of any significance since being on SmackDown.
Yes. Moving right along. No, I don't know, dude. I'm not a Drew McIntyre fan. I can't say what, you know, like I really don't care what they do or don't do with him. I just know that I don't care. But you're right. He should, like, he's already been a main eventer. So now it's like, this is just more treading water. Why they chose these guys to do it with, I don't know. Could be some reason for that. But I didn't expect to see a Drew McIntyre back. I mean, supposedly he was injured. He even talked about it and rehabbing in order to come back. And do what? Like if I would have, if this were real, and I called ahead and said I'm working hard to come back early, and what are you gonna have for me when I get back? And they said, you know, oh well, you know, Happy Corbin and Madcap Moss are waiting to get a PC. I'd be like, well, you know what? I don't want to push things too hard and come back too early. I better.
Yeah. Let me read it a little bit more.
So better safe than sorry, right? So
right.
So I don't know, but then the weird thing of all this is that they're billboarding this Elimination Chamber match with not that he's going to be in the chamber, but at the show it's going to be Drew McIntyre versus Madcap Moss in a match that approximately 0 people want to see.
Yeah.
I don't see how you could have this many people that work for you and these guys get a spot on the show unless it comes down to how many people refuse to make the trip. There could be that. Right. But yeah, this is the kind of stuff you could film this in a studio and do it on the pre-show kickoff thing with the, you know what I mean? You don't even need to have to fly those guys over there because that's how much they don't care.
Yeah, which I mean, to me the money match would be Corbin versus McIntyre at least because but
don't use the words money match with Baron Corbin anywhere near.
Well, I mean, as far as but if you're going to compare the two, if you're going to put Madcap versus Corbin, you would think that they would go that route, instead.
You would think so. The only thing I can say is we've seen a lot less of Moss, so. Like, we know what Corbin has. It's not he's already whatever he already had, which wasn't much. It peaked already, so we don't need to see any more Corbin. I could only assume that's the reason for this. They just want to get a look at Moss, but then again, it's like you look at Moss, and I've never been a big fan of Moss either. Not that I'm down on him, I'm just not up on him. He's just right in the middle, another ex-football player whose career didn't go quite the way he wanted. So you're big, you should be a wrestler type of guy. And he's worked really hard and stuck around, and he's probably coming up on those 8 years, those stone cold 8 years, at this point. Fighting through a lot of injuries and stuff. Looks good. He looks like a jacked up on gas Shia LaBeouf. That's what he looks like. So you can't ever take him seriously with that face. But even besides that, even if you could take him seriously, look what he's wearing. He's wearing suspenders and those little shorts. Like, there is zero money in that.
Yeah.
So I don't know why they're doing this to the poor guy, but a little bit of the wrong gimmick for him, I think.
Yeah, no, I mean, because honestly, the dude's jacked. He could be more of a, powerhouse looking kind of guy, but they've gone this route with him, which has been not good at all since they brought it on. So then we get Sami Zayn backstage wanting his Intercontinental. Oh wait, but before that, they show him at the red carpet. I'm sorry, for Jackass, and that Johnny Knoxville again fake stabs him with the cow prod.
Bro, how rotten was that the previous week where he like they're playing the sound effects through the PA system and they didn't even time it right, so it's like going off when it's not touching him.
Yeah, which last week I talked about. I worked on a dairy farm for my grandfather, and we use cattle prods, and I know what they sound like, and that is not what they sound like. And I mean, that's the whole point. And they will fuck you up, like legit fuck you up, because cows, obviously they can handle a lot more voltage than humans can, and it won't bother them. Whereas it'll fuck up a human real good. I mean, and
they're pretty silent, right? Like,
yeah, they're not. They don't make a crackling noise. You're not going
to hear that big cartoon electricity effect.
You don't hear anything. That's the whole point. It's like, look, if anything, you hear a little zzz. That's about it when you make the contact. And that's the only noise you ever hear. Not the like bullshit that you heard on the. And then they did it again at the red carpet review. The same stupid noise that they put on there, and it's like, oh, and I mean, that I guarantee you, if you got hit with a cattle prod, you wouldn't go, whoa, I mean, you would not be doing that. You'd be like, what the fuck? You'd be screaming your ass off because it hurts. It hurts.
Well, John, these men are superstars. They're not the average human, so
yeah. So
what would take you and me down would not affect Sami Zayn the same way. He's a little bit stronger than
but he's French Canadian, so yeah.
Well,
you guys got to take some points off. So which by the way, I thought honestly it would have been over at the Rumble, that this whole Johnny Knoxville thing, but apparently they're going to continue it at least through this point. So does that mean next week or in 2 weeks? Because Sami Zayn, it's 2 weeks because he has to recover from that terrible shock he took at the red carpet from Johnny Knoxville. But are we going to see Johnny Knoxville interfere in 2 weeks when he faces when Sami Zayn faces Shinsuke Nakamura. Do you think that's going to be a thing that they continue to carry on, or is this actually finally done and over with now that the Jackass movie is out? Um,
Yeah, probably that. And it's out and it'll have been out for 2 weeks by that point, and they won't be interested in it anymore. And Johnny Knoxville won't care to do this anymore because it's too late. It's in 2 weeks the movie will have made all the money it's going to make.
yeah. That's what I thought, and my thought is hopefully this is it. This is done. We're over. We got a like on the last minute. Friday in the 4th. It's Friday Night Smackdown. Oh yeah, hey, by the way, Jackass did come out today, so here you go. By the way, if you want to watch something that's not Jackass, I mean, I'm gonna go watch Jackass, but go to Amazon Prime, watch Reacher, which is the Lee Child's adaptation of Jack Reacher, not that bullshit that Tom Shitty Cruise did with his 5 foot nothing. You get a proper 6'5", 250-pound Jack Reacher, badass motherfucker. Watch it; it's really good. I've watched the first 2 episodes. They're really, really good. And if you've read the Lee Child's Jack Reacher books, this falls right in line with it and is excellent. So, if you're looking for something to watch other than Jackass, Reacher just came out. Go check that out.
Question is that is this is going to be a series, right?
Yes. Yes.
So that's already better too, because then you could take your time with some of the stuff. But
exactly.
Are they adapting a specific book in this series?
If I remember, so I didn't read all the way into it, and I've read different. I haven't read the Reacher books in order, so I don't. And I've read a few here and here and here. So this is the one where he goes to Margrave, Georgia, because his brother told him about this thing. But as he's there, he finds out his brother has been killed. And so it's kind of one. So I don't know. I don't remember reading that in any of the books starting off. So if that is one of the books, then I don't know which one it is, because there's a lot of Reacher books out, and I have not read them all. There was one where he was in Nebraska, and I read that one. It was really, really good. And then I read another one. I forget the other one where it was one of the ones that tied into the movies that was really good. The books were way better, but it's definitely a good thing to do to check out. Like, yeah, somebody said, Elizabeth says it may be like Bosch, where they do a book or two a season, and I think that's kind of the premise. They've got 8 episodes for this series for this season, so they could be taking a book series and doing along those lines like they did with Bosch. So I haven't looked at all the details on it yet, but it's out. It's really, really good. They've done a really good job with it so far. And I'm only 2 episodes in, so worth your time checking it out. And like I said, it's 8 episodes, so it's not like it's gonna burn your take you 4 weeks. You can burn it in a weekend or maybe in 5 days if you take your time, however you want to do it. So and if you want to skip SmackDown. So
if you're looking for something else, something more entertaining and more well written,
go do that.
I haven't even watched it. I'm sure it was more well written than anything that WWE's done in 20 years.
It's very good. So, because after we see all that, Sami Zayn is like, "Oh no, I can't believe you showed that footage. I want my Intercontinental match. I've been waiting 2 months and I still haven't gotten it. Okay, next week. Well, I did get shocked, so I need to recover. All right, 2 weeks. All right, the 18th. Okay, cool. And then we get Natty coming in wanting a dungeon style pin and submission only match, which." Why not just call it a pin and submission only match? Why not? Why do we have to have the dungeon style match in it?
Because maybe it'll be in a dungeon.
Will it be in the dungeon? Like, will they go to Stu Hart's old house and do it there?
Maybe. Or maybe they'll build a dungeon off to the side like they did at the Lion's Den match. Build a little mini dungeon, get some leaky pipes. All that stuff.
Yeah, I mean, so this is the tie-in from earlier where Natty says Aaliyah has not beaten her by a pin or submission because it's Natty's own fault, but we won't talk about that. Because of course the heel never takes issue with the fact that it's their own fault that they've been losing these matches. So we get a match set for next week for a pin and submission match, and so which. More recaps and everything, and then we get Shinsuke Nakamura versus Jinder Mahal in a Intercontinental title contenders match is what they called it. So it wasn't even for the title, but it was for a chance to fight for the title.
Yeah, that's pretty annoying.
Yeah, no, like really.
But what else is new? Like, can we really do it? Can we even really bother to take them to task for this with all the other things that we could be saying? For example, like, you remember what we were talking about earlier when we said treading water is like a thing that's just happening? Is there anybody else in the WWE that they do the exact same thing every single week, pointlessly, by the way, not even like with a purpose to it, like they do with Shinsuke Nakamura?
Well, he's the only one.
Like, it's just the entrance, a match either with him or with Boogs, doesn't matter, just come out. They're just like, they're definitely reminding you that he works there.
Yeah,
but there's no clear like path or plan or even opponent that they have for you. It's just, we know we're going to get the Rick Boogs thing, and then Nakamura's going to come out, then a match will happen, and then everyone will move on. McAfee will dance on the desk. This is like, is there anything else like this that's just the exact same thing with no actual end goal in mind?
Yeah, no, I mean,
okay.
Yeah,
just making sure.
No, I think like Sir James says, I think Pat dancing on the table is Potts Vince. That's the only reason why he shows up every week.
He could do that anytime he wants.
Yeah, you know,
he could dance to everybody. Everybody has music.
Right.
He could dance to every single theme song if that's all it takes.
Yeah, Elizabeth, I think you're thinking about a different kind of porn, right there. Not WWE wrestling. I don't think they're gonna do shackling. That's
unless. Well, anyway.
Yeah. So, you know, all right. I like this one. Sonic, Shinsuke's pulling an Orange Cassidy better than Orange Cassidy. That was
Shinsuke's
good.
the opposite of Orange Cassidy. He always cares.
Yeah, exactly.
He cares to the point of having a seizure.
Yeah, and surfing, and that's his points. But it's one of those things of, again, this was the match. I there's nothing about it that made me go, ooh, this was great or wonderful or whatever. It was there, and Shinsuke gets the win. Again, it didn't take that long. It was a short match again. We had, it's almost like we got to have 4 matches, but let's see how short we can go with all these matches. Oh, wait, we had a singles match, but then we turned that into a tag match. Then we had a tag team match that was a singles match, which in the sense of we had our tag team champions and contenders wrestle in a singles match. And then we had, the Aaliyah match, and then we have this match. And it's like, but I mean, total wrestling-wise, what, 20 minutes of wrestling for this 2-hour show? If you want to total everything out? I mean, that's
not so bad, but you could have, a few more short matches, a few more promos that could get us interested in some matches that are forthcoming. Anything but recaps and the same exact thing that, you're going to get this segment. You're going to get the something to do with Sheamus and Ridge Holland and Ricochet somehow. And you're going to get something with Sonya and Naomi, right?
Yeah. Which is next, which is the next thing.
Yeah, as Cujo pointed out, he says that has no end goal or a start goal, which is true, but at least they do different things every week to this stupid feud rather than just this would be like the equivalent. It would be like if Sonya and Naomi just had a match every week against each other instead of at least trying to like her get out of matches or make excuses. Not saying it's good, but there's some variety in what they do.
Right. Which we see this in the next segment here where they come in,
Well, is this before or after the Goldberg video package? Because I just want to ask.
Yeah. The Goldberg package.
I want to just ask, are we really explaining who Goldberg is?
Apparently.
Like, if we have to do this to remind people who Goldberg actually is, even though he's been in the company recently, then why is this a match we're supposed to care about?
Right. Yeah.
He's not a debuting superstar, guys. This whole thing was like, hey, remember Goldberg? From like An hour ago? You remember him? Yeah. Well, here's what he used to do.
Emphasis on used to do. And so yes, that's right. We did have the Goldberg segment, then this backstage segment where Naomi comes in and wants a match with Sonya Deville, but instead she gets a title match with Charlotte next week. Uh, and it was promised by not Sonya Deville, but by Adam Pearce. Saying you have my word that this is going to happen and everything along those lines. Because again, we just find a way to make this feud go. Well, we don't have. I mean, is the ultimate game to last this thing till WrestleMania? Vet, do you think is that their whole purpose behind this, or do you think they're just now trying to find fun, creative ways to just keep this going?
I can't imagine that this could pay off at WrestleMania in a satisfying way. Of course, nothing will, but right. I'm just saying, especially this. I mean, this could be like, I firmly believe that not everything needs to be on pay-per-views, and some angles should blow off on TV on go-home shows. So, like, you could have an exciting go-home right before a big show like WrestleMania. You know what I mean? To
right.
try to get you interested in. If they do something cool, again, this I'm talking in completely hypothetical terms. We all know this won't happen. But if they did something cool with Naomi and Sonya, like right before WrestleMania, then they don't have to have that match on WrestleMania. But if they do something really cool, it'd be like, wow, that was cool. Now what does WrestleMania have in store for me?
Right.
Type thing. Rather than them just be on the card, be one of 20 matches that they're going to have on 2 nights and get lost in the shuffle and nobody really care at all.
Right. Which I thought that's what they were doing with the Smackdown before Royal Rumble. They had their match, and it was a decent match, and Naomi won, and you see that happening. But then they decided, well, we're going to continue this. No, Sonya's going to enter the Women's Royal Rumble, as well, and to keep it going. And I would have been okay with it if they ended it that Friday night before the Royal Rumble, and that's it. Fine, you beat me. I'm done. I'm over this. I have other more important things to do than deal with you. I need to go. We have Royal Rumble tomorrow. I'm done with you. I could have seen that being the case, but they've decided not to do that then and go forward. And so, I don't know. This is one of those things where I want to see how it ends, but at the same time too, I'm almost to the point where I don't care anymore.
Well, I think it's probably more like you don't want to be involved, and you wouldn't mind if somebody told you how it ended. Like, yeah. Like, hey, what'd they ever do with Naomi and Sonya? Oh, that's what they did? Okay, glad I didn't waste hours of my life then.
Yeah, exactly. That's kind of how I feel. So after that, we see that Drew McIntyre and Madcap Moss are going to have a match in the Elimination Chamber. Yay. That's just what we wanted. And Natalya wanted to threaten Aaliyah before her match next week, but Xia Li came out of the women's locker room and made Natty reconsider and walk off.
So why? Yeah, because Natalya is talking. Isn't she talking to Kayla? And Kayla asked her something about the dungeon match. She's like, "I'm gonna go tell Aaliyah right now." And then Xia Li comes out of the door, and then she's like, "Next week." Next week. Well, sorry, Natty. I think she'll know by next week. For all we know, she was in there watching the show on the monitor and heard you say everything. Right. So we don't know that, but
at the right angle, at the WWE angle.
This is my question, though, for all of you guys. When, how, on this very show, for example, most of the people, how, Goldberg will come out and then or Roman Reigns, and then you just won't see them ever again for the rest of the entire show? Why can't Natalya be one of those people? This is the 3rd time.
Yep.
Why do look, WWE management, guys, whoever you are, whichever ones of you this is, you hate her, okay? So just take her off TV if you hate her that much. Yeah. We don't like her either. It's fine. We won't, let's quietly release her like Shane McMahon. We don't.
Wow. That was
we don't need Natalya just for your own personal ribs, okay? Yeah. It's fine. Just let her go. Stop playing this game. Let the poor girl go home to her cats and her crippled husband.
Yes, yes. Yeah, which apparently she doesn't give her enough sex. Which how that happens, I don't know. All right, so then we end with our last match of the night, which is the New Day versus the Los Lotharios. Sorry, it takes me a minute because I don't speak Spanish. Um, I can't say.
But
that
you're
word,
in Texas.
I grew up in South Louisiana. I'm Cajun by heart. I realized it this year in August.
Well, you don't speak French either, do you?
I don't speak French either. Yeah, I got out of learning. Oh, I got out of learning foreign languages in high school. That was the great thing. But that was I realized this year in 2022 in August, I will have lived in South Louisiana for 22 years and lived in Texas now for 22 years. So, so I have reached that point where I've been as far away. I lived in Louisiana as long as I have in Texas, like permanently. Like, I mean, I don't count like, when I come up for summers and work for my grandfather's dairy farm and stuff like that, because my permanent home was Louisiana. So being Texas.
No, I want the exact math on that, John. I need to figure out exactly how long you lived in both areas.
Okay, all right. It's 22 years for both. So hey. We're gonna do that. But yeah, so we see this match. I gotta be honest with you. I was impressed with the Los Lotharios. They were impressive with New Day in this match, but I think that has more to do with Big E and Kofi being the veterans in the ring. But these, Umberto and these guys, they're not spring chickens either. They're not like brand new to the ring. So, it felt good. I think partially too because this was something different. I've never seen it before. I don't recall these two ever really having a match together, or these four having a match together. And it felt fresh and new. And this is what I want from wrestling. And the problem is we see it in AEW. We see fresh rotations. We see fresh things. We'll see that in an hour after this show on SmackDown. You'll see guys who haven't wrestled before or new pairings or things like that, which we're not seeing on WWE. We're seeing guys wrestle each other in different formations for 4 weeks at a time, 5 weeks at a time, and not moving on from other things. This was fresh. This was unique. It was different, and I enjoyed it. I thought, both teams looked really sharp, and I enjoyed having this match. I wish this would have been the end of the show. Unfortunately, it wasn't. Especially when I saw the time frame and then what was still left, I was like, "Oh Jesus Christ! No, we still have 10 minutes or whatever." I don't want 8 minutes. I want I wanted this to end the show because this to me was a a good match, and I think both teams were served well here. In this match, showing off what the tag team division could be.
Okay. I had a little different take than that. I did not really think the match was that good to start with, at least. I mean, they finished okay, but there was some weird awkwardness, especially at the beginning. Like the announcers were kind of talking about how it'd been so long since Big E and Kofi had teamed together, and it's like, yeah, I could kind of see that because they were a bit off on some of the stuff they were doing. There was some weird thing where like Big E almost, I don't even remember what he was doing. It was almost like one of the guys came in to attack him from behind, and then Big E tried to give him an elbow, but he didn't actually hit him, and they just went back to the corner. It's like just so he could tag, and it is some bizarre, awkward stuff to start with. So not really thinking that they were looking too sharp, especially early on, but eventually they got it together and finished the match, which was fine.
And I guess for me, I was more intrigued with this. So I missed some of the details of the match because I was more focused on, hey, this is something new I haven't seen before. So I'm a little bit more invested in it, and I'm just kind of more watching for the story that's being told in the ring rather than the details of it per se. And I mean, I don't necessarily watch matches all the time for details per se. So I look for what's being told in the ring, and I guess that's where I enjoyed it more. For me, was I'll filter out the little mini things if this is something new and different that I want to see, and so that's I guess the reason why I enjoyed this match, because it's not something I've seen for the last 6 weeks.
Well, even on that level, we should have enjoyed it even more because the match is already in the ring basically, or almost getting ready to start, whichever, when they tell us the reason this is even happening, which is because the New Day came in and photobombed the Lothario's photo shoot. It's
Right.
like, which is just another variation on the old coffee machine match. Like, so, so that it's like not a compelling reason to care, but just the fact that that's how starved we are for something from these guys that will accept any mediocrity that they give us, if it's even on the surface has the semblance of being different. So like I get it, I get it. And Sonic is saying, Vet didn't straight out hate something. My face went, and then he's a New Day mark. He didn't even watch the show and he loved the match. Like, hey, I'm right there with you. I'm a big New Day fan. In fact, such an, you know what, vamp for me, John, for a second.
Okay.
I'll be right back.
All right. And I mean, it's, as we talk about New Day, I love New Day. And like you said, Sonic, I didn't even see the match and I thought it was great. I have all the time in the world for New Day. This
is the original. You see this? This is the first one. It's not the Bootios one. Not whatever they got now. The first New Day shirt. Okay. I support the New Day. Always have. And that's why it hurts me to see everything that they've gone through when it could have been, we see them do everything as a trio. And then when they get their own individual shines, I feel like that's where a lot of the time the ball was dropped. Why does Big E have to be separate if you want to make him a main event person? It shouldn't be like that. They should be the one team of guys that never breaks up or turns on each other or whatever. They can go off and do their one thing, but they should always be able to come back together. You know what I mean? And this just felt like, and lately with Woods and Kofi or whatever, it's just felt like the New Day's like, well, we're completely out of stuff now, and these guys are just afterthoughts. We know they can have a good match. Let's put them in with the Usos 50 times or, whatever. So it just makes me, I just feel it's unfortunate that you got two teams that could really do something. So let's let them do something. Let's not just throw them in a random Smackdown that will never be remembered again. I guess that's just my thing.
Right. And I mean, obviously with Xavier being hurt, they feel the need to bring Big E over to continue the New Day tag aspect, I guess, to keep them going, on SmackDown for that aspect of it.
I'm surprised they care that much.
Well, I mean,
but they're also using that as a way to, whatever political stuff is going on with Big E, it's a way to bring him back down to whatever level that they don't think he should be up at the top anymore.
Right.
It's like, you're just another tag team wrestler again, Big E.
Right.
But only because Woods is hurt, not because of any other reasons.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I enjoyed his time as champ. I thought he did a good job with it. Because again, it was different. It was something unique. And, but like you said, I feel that these guys should always be together. They should never be separated. I love that you Freebird rules them, so whoever has the titles, whatever combination of people they want in that ring, that's how they're going to do it. And it can make for, fun and interesting things to happen. And so, to me, I've always had time for the New Day. I've felt they've always been something that has been unique, different, and fun for WWE. And I think that's the biggest thing, is the fun aspect. They've shown that they're enjoying what they're doing in the ring, and that's what makes it enjoyable to watch more than anything else. So, and then
and just as a capper on all that, for all the people that always say, "Oh, Big E needs to be more serious," and this is no. It should always be this. Dance with who brung you, as JR would say. You know what I mean? Like, if you got over with hip wiggling and being goofy and licking yourself and throwing pancakes and all this shit that these guys have done, that's what you should do as the WWE champion. Why would you ever stop going to what made you a champion? Especially as superstitious as athletes are. Like, why would you change your entire routine? Plus, you already had serious Big E, and nobody cared. Before the New Day, you already had serious Big E. You didn't care about him then. And now that he's supposed to be in a main event spot or whatever, everybody's like, oh, he needs to do this, he needs to do that. No, and now look what happened. Look what happened. Look where he's at. It's all everyone's fault. Well, not you guys, not you in the chat. You're all good.
Yeah, but everybody else. So then we have to end with the show with Charlotte Flair facing off with Ronda Rousey, and and saying that Ronda Rousey is choking Becky Lynch, and was not happy about it, and she picked Sasha Banks and said WrestleMania will be the best and worst day of Banks' life. And then we have Ronda Rousey come out, and she says, I owe you an ass whipping, and challenge her to a WrestleMania match, undoing everything we talked about until now. So, I don't know. Like, this confused the fuck out of me, because we saw Ronda Rousey come out and say she wants Becky Lynch. Now we're coming out and saying I want Charlotte Flair, and I don't know. It's like this. I mean, this made no sense to me.
John, just straight up man to man.
Okay.
You know what the money match is, right?
Oh yeah, it's Charlotte and Ronda.
That's the money match?
To me.
Why is that the money match? We've seen that.
Well, no, I take that back. Yeah, Becky should be the money match.
Becky's the most over.
Yeah.
They never wrestle one-on-one.
True.
That's it. Yeah. That's your WrestleMania match, period. Mm-hmm. End of story. I don't even know why we're flirting with this whole Charlotte thing. What has Charlotte done that is supposed to be like, that we're supposed to think that she deserves to have any of this? Mm-hmm. Like, she has completely fallen off in almost every conceivable aspect. She's phoning it in. She's checked out. She doesn't care. She's doing things worse than she did when she was new. They don't care either. They just want to hold her hostage there. I'm sure she doesn't want to work there anymore or whatever. Mm-hmm. But even if I don't want to put words in her mouth or whatever, besides all of that, Becky's the most over. That's the match.
Yeah.
Becky's the most over, and we haven't seen it.
Yeah.
There's nothing else to say here. I don't know what they think they're doing with this. They could always obviously change it. But nobody really needs to see Charlotte and Ronda again.
Right. But at the same time, too, it's not like that. This is typical WWE. Well, they'll do this bullshit of, we know we have a match that we want to see, and then a match that, we can have this match, but everybody wants to see this match. How long have we've been wanting Brock Lesnar and Bobby Lashley, and we finally get it at the Rumble, and it turns out the way it does? I mean, that's a match that we haven't seen, that people have been wanting for years, and they finally give it to us, and then it's, I mean, they do shenanigans with it, which is, they came out and they hossed each other and tossed each other around a little bit, but you knew that match was going to end in shenanigans because of where they're trying to go with the story with Roman Reigns and Brock Lesnar, which was sad, because that should have been a match that, was a big time match. And I felt it was not given the big time, necessities that it should have been. And so who says that they are like, well, okay, we know Becky and Ronda hasn't happened. We want it to happen, but we've got Charlotte over here, so let's do that instead. And I don't know. This, like, I would not put them past it to be like, you know what? Fuck it, we won't do the Becky match with Ronda Rousey, even though that's the match that probably makes us the most money, because we just want to placate to Charlotte Flair, while she's here. And then
why do they want to? There's no reason to. You know what I mean? Like, they don't owe her anything. She's got no leverage in this.
I mean, you know what I mean? She still has the belt. Why not take the belt off of her? They could have done that like 3 or 4 different times, and they haven't done it yet. That's the problem, is they haven't even bothered to take the belt off her. She still has it on her. And so, I think that's the only leverage she has, is that she still has the belt, and but I mean, I don't know how big of leverage that really is, per se. Yeah.
Not really. Yeah. But, so the thing about Brock and Bobby is, like, and I've discussed this in part on probably other shows. I don't remember which, but the whole thing with that is we know that there's stuff behind the scenes that got in the way of that. Even if we don't know what it is, my personal speculation was that because Brock Lesnar knows he's a fraud, he's going to exercise whatever creative control he has in that situation so that Bobby, no matter what, even somehow Bobby won the championship off him and came off looking worse than ever.
Right.
In that Royal Rumble, right? Mm-hmm. So it's like it didn't even matter that Brock didn't win. He won anyway. You know what I mean? If you know what I'm saying. So that right there, it was all a burial of Bobby because, that, like I said, Brock Lesnar knows that if this were real, he wouldn't stand a chance or whatever. He's never really beat anybody. So he doesn't, but he's that insecurity is going to keep him from giving Bobby Lashley the respect that he deserves, as an upstanding citizen and, proud father and military hero and all these other nice things. And all we know about Brock Lesnar is that he hates everybody, hates wrestling, and doesn't want to be around people. Right. Like that's all we know about Brock Lesnar. So, and yet somehow Bobby Lashley comes off looking worse and almost the heel of the situation, right?
I know, right?
Okay. The difference with Becky and Ronda is they aren't like that. Anybody that knows Becky, the real Becky, knows that she's not the type of person to like pull the card. She wants to do what she thinks is best for everybody. If that includes herself, fine. Ronda, we know, is like, even though she's made comments in the past publicly, we know that was probably her way of working, like in terms of when she's talking about like, these girls are fake and I'll kill them all if this is real and stuff like that. That was that was some ill advice that she probably got from somebody like Paul Heyman or whatever to generate heat, or whatever like that. We know Ronda doesn't really feel that way. We all know she's a fan like us and she wants to do what's best too. So with her, with the leverage of saying, I'm Ronda Rousey, I can do what I want, and you need me and I don't need you. And Becky being the type of person that's like, I think we can make this the best thing. We're the two most over. We can draw the most money. We can get people excited about this match, and we can do it together with no ego involved. And we've seen that Becky can work with, even if the thing between her and Charlotte is, if they've really had a rift, but they still put it aside and had that match, which was a good match and everything like that. And they're professional about it. So, we know that's where Becky's head is at. It only makes sense to just do the Becky and Ronda thing while we can get it. It's not going to be the WWE is not going to be in the situation that they would be with Brock and Bobby, because Brock can always pull that, I just won't do it. I'm Brock Lesnar and I just won't do it.
That
and
won't
if you
work
make
for
me do it, then I'm leaving. I don't care. Neither one of these ladies is going to be like that. So I think if anything, they'll be like, look, this is what you want to do. You don't want to go with Charlotte. This is what the business needs. And Charlotte will be fine on her own. What else can you do with Becky if they go with Charlotte at WrestleMania? Right. What the hell else is there? The women's division is not that stout anyway, and she's already cleaned them out. So this could just be like a red herring or something, making us think that Ronda's gonna go with Charlotte or whatever, or maybe she could even they could even do a thing somehow where she gets her hands on Charlotte and maybe even beats her before, and then takes that SmackDown title into WrestleMania and faces Becky there for a unification deal. You never know. I mean, that's hoping for a lot with this shitty company, but. But I think we can all just agree that the match is Becky and Ronda, regardless of what they end up doing. That was the match. That is the match. It's the only match. Nothing else makes sense, and we need to do it while we still can.
Yeah, and I agree. But is it? Do they think they're making entry by going this route just to go? Oh, well, maybe. I mean. I don't understand it. I liked where we were set and going forward. Now throwing this into the ring, just doesn't do anything for me. Pardon me. I guess because my voice doesn't want to talk about it anymore. You're like, fuck this shit. But it's to me, Charlotte has been the bad kid and just pitching the fits and not doing the things she needs to. Why are we even entertaining this point? It's to me, I guess that's the frustration part of it is take the belt off of her, do something different, get her, put her on ice, and do like you normally do with these people to, get rid of them and shove them out the back door, but, because we hear all these things that's been going on with Charlotte and her poor behavior. I just haven't figured out why they haven't done her like they've done everybody else in that same aspect, and it can't be because of Ric Flair. It can't be because of the legacy or anything like that, because I mean, yeah, I don't know. I don't get it. I guess is I don't understand it from this aspect of it, because it's almost like they're afraid to. Like, to me, it feels like they're afraid to commit to Becky versus Ronda for WrestleMania. And it's like, well, we want to throw this out there just because it's WrestleMania. You never know. So, I think, to me, it's almost like you're doing too much to make WrestleMania to try to sell it when you don't have to. It's WrestleMania. I mean, that's the whole point. I could have seen if it's Ronda coming out saying, you know what? I still owe you an ass to a big sort of elimination chamber. I don't give a damn about your title. We're going to have a match. I'm just going to beat the shit out of you. I'd have respected that a lot more. That's what it was, where she's coming out just to challenge her at elimination chamber, just to beat the shit out of you. And, I don't care about your goddamn title because I want Becky Lynch, but I do want to beat the shit out of you. So how about an elimination chamber? I go ahead and do that to warm me up for Becky Lynch. To me, that would have been intriguing. That would have been a little bit better of, going along that route. But
the weirdest part was how they came out with Sonya Deville and Sonya Deville is like, well, Ronda says she chose Becky, so
right.
Like, what the fuck kind of anticlimactic shit? You've been saying Ronda Rousey's gonna be there all night, and then the first thing that we hear in the ring is like, well, Ronda said, don't tell me what Ronda said. Bring her out and let her say that.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, dude, who in the hell is producing this shit? This is terrible. It's terrible. No matter how you look at it, it's terrible. Everything they're doing is terrible.
Yeah. It's terrible, terrible, terrible.
It's so terrible that the most excited you were was when Los Lotharios had a match with New Day. That's how bad the state of wrestling is today.
Oh, I mean, that should show you how bad everything is. So, but I mean, other than a great reset, I don't see how we can fix it. I mean, there's nothing we can do to fix. And, that's the sad part is, WWE is not going to make the changes because we keep giving them their money. We keep giving them our time. We keep giving them, we go to these live events. We go to, we watch these shows. We give them our time and energy. So they continue to go, okay, well, we're at least better than AEW. We look, our numbers are better than them. And it just makes
at least we're better than this company that just came out 2 years ago.
I know, right? Yeah.
You know what would warm my heart more than anything, John?
What would that be?
Is to see 2 half-empty stadiums in Dallas.
I
would love to see that. I would love to see them have to shoot around all the empty seats that they have there. Because it just ain't the same no more.
Mm-mm.
Not only do we not live in the same world, but it's on top of that, they lost a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
And that, the AT&T Stadium is fucking massive. It holds a lot of people.
Oh, I'm aware. I'm aware.
Yeah, I know you know. But, not only Texas people listen to this show. So I'm just throwing it out there to remind everybody, like, this is a humongous stadium. And it would be a tough ask, I would think, to sell this out one time, given everything that you take into account, the fact of how shitty everything is, the fact that it's like, what matches are you even paying to see? Like, think of it. You want to headline WrestleMania with Brock Lesnar versus Roman Reigns. We have not seen that match 5 or 6 times, have we? You know, like let's pay for it again. Let's travel
Yeah.
all around the world with all these restrictions and travel vaccine passes and blah 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 blah. Let's do all that to sit and watch a match I've seen 6 or 7 times. Oh, last year, in fact, late last year. You know what I mean? Like, let's see it again. Sure, that's what I want to do. Or, and I understand that there's supposedly plans that they were going to have The Rock there or
Right.
something like that. But you know, even if that was the case, I would expect though to be sellouts, but I would be like, don't be surprised if it's not 100% sold out. Sure, they're going to claim it's sold out no matter what, but
Right.
you know what I mean? Like, I would love it to be so undeniable that they can't even say it's a sellout. Like, they have to be like, you know what? This year, let's not do the attendance record thing.
Right.
Let's just not say it. I would love that. They need to be taken down a peg, because there's no other way they're going to change. Now, I don't think anything will make them change. There is no hope, and
Right.
everybody should just abandon watching WWE right now. And I don't care if you ever watch wrestling, but just don't watch them anymore. That'd
Yeah.
be fine.
Yeah.
Spend your time watching all Reacher, any of the other things. You know, anything is better than this because you're
Yes.
never going to get what you want. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? It's never going to give you what you want. There is no reckoning. There is no 180 turnaround. There is no, okay, we got to get serious about this. It's not going to happen. It's never
Right.
going to happen. So we're just torturing ourselves hoping it's going to happen.
Yeah.
If you don't mind that it's not going to happen, then by all means continue to watch it, and support your favorite wrestlers. You know,
Yeah.
buy their merchandise. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
But but just don't hope that it's ever going to get better because it's not.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, we see that in the product and everything going on, and so you just have to remember that the wrestlers themselves are the people we're supporting, and I, I some of them we know for a person. Like for me, Lance is always a good. I'm always going to support Lance and what he does. But then there's other guys that I've met that I support them and what they do too, and I don't know them personally. I have a genuine like for them. It's of course, when you make that personal connection, that's where it makes a difference. I mean, am I going to always cheer for Tanahashi because I met him? Hell yeah, I am. The dude, we're doing a meet and greet for New Japan when they did the G1 here in Dallas. And I mean, the dude, we're having a line and there's a line of people and it's me and my son taking a picture. And, the fact that he like takes time is like, in broken English asking me, if I'm going to the show. And I'm like, yes, sir. And, oh, your son's very big. He'd be a wrestler. It's like, maybe one day, yeah, I'll let him go take bumps. And he's like, he's a very big boy. I was like, oh, yeah, thank you. I mean, Tanahashi's not that big. I mean, he's about my height, and but I mean, he's jacked to the gills. So, and then Liger, same thing. When we met Liger that day, took time out of the day to stop and say, and Liger was late to the meet and greet, but still stopped, had a line out the door to stop and say the same, talk to me. He's like, hey, and thanks, thank you for coming out. And I was like, oh, well, thank you for your, for your years of
Thank
wrestling.
you for existing.
Yeah, for your years of wrestling and enjoyment. And and he said the same thing about my kid. Oh, your son very big. How old is he's like, oh, he's 12. He's like, oh, he'd be a good wrestler. I was like, okay, you want to train him? And he goes, I'll train him. I'll take him with me. It was like, so, but like, just even that small little moments of those kind of things. Colt Cabana, same thing. The Young Bucks, Cody. I mean, I don't care what people say about Cody. When Cody and they did a Ring of Honor show here in Dallas, Cody spent 5 minutes with me and my son. Taking a picture of Jacob holding the belt. But then we talked about ties and we talked about dogs. And I mean, he's literally showing me pictures on his phone of Pharaoh and like new pictures that Brandy sent him that day. And like, we're talking about ties because, I wear suits a lot for weddings. And so I was like, okay, what kind of tie do you normally go? He goes, I'm a half Windsor guy. I was like, me too. And we're talking about like just different ties that we want to try and knots that we want to do.
John, he only did that because he didn't want you to boo him today.
Well,
he was thinking that far ahead.
Yeah, exactly.
He didn't give a shit about you, your dog, your son, your tie, or any of that.
Right.
Just know that.
Yeah, sure. I'm sure that's what it is. But, I mean, but the Young Bucks were the same way too. Back when we did the pictures Photoshop with them, that same show, we were like, they just got the cease and desist. And we're like, hey, I was like, hey, do you mind if like we go to do the like too sweet thing and y'all are like covering it up, like going, no, 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 like, oh my god, yeah, we haven't done that yet. That's hilarious. Let's do it. And then they were just, they spent 5 minutes with it and they have a line out the door. So it's the little connections that really you feel. But I mean, if you feel strongly about a character you like, John Cena, you've never met him and you just love John Cena, buy his shit, support what they do. That's the important thing is you're supporting the wrestlers themselves, not necessarily the shitty creative that they have to deal with, because half the time it's not their fault that they have to deal with this creative. They have to do the best they can. You know, it's I think that's the more important thing is that the wrestlers at the end of the day, I think they're the ones we need to support more than the wrestling companies, per se. But that's just me. That's my personal opinion. Having known a lot of these guys and met a lot of people and being involved with some of these wrestling companies and seeing how they work and what they do, to me, it's about the people themselves.
Yeah, and you must support them more than ever once they escape the infernal machine. And don't forget about them just because they're not on WWE TV anymore, you marks. You know what I mean? Actually stay a fan of theirs. And that's the other bad thing, like having a WWE run could make people think that you're less than what you are.
Yeah.
Because of the way they treat you. If people only know the Viking Raiders from that and they think they're stupid, then if they go back to being War Machine, they'll be like, I'm not going to watch those guys. Those guys are stupid. Those are those stupid Viking guys, and that sucks. But it's a sad fact. So it's a tough paradox of not wanting to support a company, but wanting to support the talent. But we'll just do our best. That's all we can do.
That's all we can do. And all we can do today is, all we can do today at the end of the day is we can tell each other where we can find each other on the internet as we end this show today. So, Vet, let's go ahead and start with you. It's super hard to find you on the internet. I know I can't ever find you. But if we want to find you on the internet, how do we find you if you want to let people in?
I would suggest the opinion haver tag. You can usually find that on all the pertinent social media platforms. I'm surprised that more people haven't gotten on my PlayStation Network and tried to add me as a friend. I think the only person that did was Bobo, the great Bobo.
Oh, yeah,
we see Bobo in here all the time. Other than him, I'm surprised. I'm surprised Sonic didn't want to get washed in any fighting games or anything like that. You never know. I might reinstall Street Fighter V just to teach a kid a few things. But but yeah, opinion everywhere. Next Level Wrestling Review every Wednesday. Impact Attack every. It falls between Monday and Tuesday for some people. So, but yeah.
This is what Sonic. This is Sonic's excuse.
There's crossplay. There's crossplay in Street Fighter V.
So,
but anyway, so yeah, that you can definitely find me. I'm not that hard to find. John, what about you?
Jay Reezy Men on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and you can find me all on those places. John Enright on Facebook. But I'm going to take my time this because February is Teen Dating Violence Awareness Month, and it is a big month for me and my agency. 1 in 5 teenagers will experience abuse in some form of relationship and dating. Usually, we've seen that's a steady statistic in the last 5 years. So this, I'm telling you, this is kids 13 to 17 years old in that age bracket. The fact that a 13-year-old is experiencing abuse in a dating relationship is ridiculous. And 1 out of 5 kids. It's just sad. So, the goal this month is to raise awareness. So if you can, on February 8th, wear orange for awareness. Orange is the color for the month. And on that day, wear orange, take a picture, put it on social media, #orange4love. And that will just let everybody know that, hey, I stand against teen dating violence and I'm wearing orange to support that. So if you can do that, I know that's coming up in this Tuesday. So if you can, wear orange, take a picture of it, put it on your Instagram, put it on your Snapchat, Facebook, whatever you want to do, #orange4love, and that you're standing to support Teen Dating Violence Awareness Month. That is a big thing. So, and then I've got also this month we're doing human trafficking training for all of the secondary elements and secondary students in the Weatherford ISD here. So high school, ninth grade center, and both middle schools teaching human trafficking awareness as well as teen dating violence awareness on all that. So it's going to be a busy month for me. A lot going on, but doing a lot to really raise awareness in the community for human trafficking and teen dating violence for our kids this year. So that's kind of the big things to find us. If you want to find out more information on how we do things, you can go to freedomhousepc.org, and that is our website. If you have any questions about domestic violence, sexual assault, we have plenty of answers there. Or if you want to contact me directly to talk about those things and maybe how we can find resources in your area because you don't live in my area, you can email me, john@freedomhousepc.org, and we can connect you with the resources that you need to help your healing journey and start that path. So that's where you can find me, and that's how I'm handling this month for me, Vet. Vet, as always, it's been a pleasure. It's always a great show when you're around, and we appreciate the insight on that. And everybody else, thank you all in the chat: Sonic, Sir Jam, Cujo, Liz, everybody.
Oh yeah, and Sir Jam, Cobra Kai is absolutely better than anything that WWE writes, no matter what I think of it.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
don't think I haven't seen you this whole time, but the show's already 2 1/4.
Yeah,
I can't respond to all of you, but even though I see you guys, though I see you guys.
Canada Spaceman, everybody, Lab Rat, the regulars we see in the chat. Y'all have a great week, and hopefully James will not be working for his work overlords, and we'll be back next week having a proper Saturday off for him. So up until that time, ladies and gentlemen, it's been a great time, and we'll see you next week. Peace.